week's episode of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, Tekkadan and Gallarhorn continue to defend Mars against the seemingly indestructible mobile armors. And that's when Orga decides to bring in the Gundam Flauros, which is incredibly destructive. But will it be enough? Not according to Mikazuki, who appears at the end of this episode like a badass white knight of death as he prepares to go toe-to-toe with the massive mobile armor, Hashmal. This week's episode of IBO was perfect. In fact, it was one of my favorite episodes from the entire season. Just so many amazing moments, way too many to count, so let's just talk about some of the highlights. The main story in this week's episode is that the Hashmal, the giant Metal Gear Ray-looking mobile army, and its group of Pluma are continuing to ravage the Mars landscape, and Tekkadan and Gallarhorn are trying to figure out how to take these things out. The biggest problem, however, is that apparently the Hashmal has this ability that allows it to just completely brick the Gundam frames. Anything that uses an Ahab reactor or is a Gundam frame type mobile suit is going to be completely useless if it tries to battle them up close, which means Akihiro and Mikazuki are pretty much knocked out for about 90% of this week's episode. Now, at first, while this might seem like a bad thing, it actually gives us an excuse to see a lot of the other characters in action. In fact, the way the episode opened up, to me, was exciting while somewhat disappointing, as I was expecting there to be a big confrontation between Vidar and McGillis Farid, and there is still something there. They basically make it official that Vidar is indeed Gaelio Bodine. In fact, he even mentions that McGillis is piloting the same mobile suit as Carta Issue, and this really seems to get under McGillis' skin, and a battle is about to ensue. Isarugi, who is McGillis' brand new boy toy, decides to use his brand new mobile suit, but before the battle can even start, Vidar just runs away and we don't see him for the rest of the episode. I have to say it's kind of disappointing, although he probably has some sort of ulterior motive, and I was just sort of waiting for him to pop up the entire episode, but he never did. What is Gaelio up to in the first place? I will say, though, it is really cool getting to see that brand new mobile suit used by Isarugi, which, the name of that mobile suit, like, I won't even try to pronounce it. It's just, I think it's like the Wilm Haig thing. I don't know. The Rheinkar? I don't know. But what's cool about it is that it has got this ridiculously oversized sword, and it actually, like, buries its feet into the ground and kind of looks like a giant minotaur. I'm really ready to see this thing in action. Aside from all the cool action scenes, I love the fact that Zack actually stepped up to the plate in this week's episode. And Zack is known as basically one of the laziest members of Tekkadan, but he's actually incredibly smart. He's the one who actually deduces the fact that the Hashmal is actually sort of interfering with the protection system of the Gundam frames, which is allowing them to not be piloted at all. This completely impresses Naughty, and that's when they realize, alright, we're gonna have to come up with another plan, and this is just an excuse to finally see the Gundam Flauros in action, otherwise known as the Ryusei Go 4. Gundam Flauros is one of the coolest Gundams that I have ever seen, period. It's got a really great gimmick, and it's made even better by the fact that it's actually piloted by Shino. This is going to be his official mobile suit. He is going to be joining this Gundam force in Tekkadan. What I love is they actually try to separate the Hashmal and the Pluma from one another, and they're going to use the Gundam Flauros to make that happen. They're actually going to corral them all into this massive cavern, and then the Gundam Flauros is going to use its secret weapon to blast into the cavern, separating the mobile armor from all of its protection. And it does it by going through a transformation sequence. You get to see that Shino is actually riding along with Yamagi, who's basically acting as his literal instruction manual. He's actually sitting on his lap while all of this is going on. It adds a little bit of levity to this scene as well. But the Gundam Flauros, when it finally appears, just looks great. At first, it's just sort of a standard-looking Gundam, and it has the typical pink or salmon-colored coloration that you've seen from the Ryusei Go. And it has these massive cannons on its shoulder and on its back. And what it can do is it can actually transform into this massive bipedal cannon. Yes, essentially it transforms into like Mecha Blastoise, and it has a signature move which is known as the Galaxy Cannon. Apparently this Gundam is powered by two Ahab reactors, which powers up its electromagnetic blasts, which have the power to destroy this entire mountainside, completely crushing all the Pluma and trapping them in this avalanche of rocks. When Shino used the Galaxy Cannon attack, That was one of the coolest moments from the entire series for me personally. I also just love the look of it when it actually transforms, and I'm glad because it gives it an interesting gimmick. Honestly, all three of the main Gundam frames that we've seen so far are all completely different from one another in what they're truly capable of, and that makes them all incredibly distinctive and refreshing, and it's going to be a great way to sell model kits. You know, I like the Gundam models, I think they're really fun to build, but damn it, Iron Blooded Orphans, you are tempting me. You really want me to pick up all of these models. The episode ends as Tekadan and Gallarhorn continue to battle against the Hashmal, with even McGillis Freed and Isarugi going up against it in close combat, and they both just completely get wrecked in this episode. That is until suddenly Mikazuki finally arrives, and he's going over Orga's head on this one. He's just gonna go in and it doesn't matter if it's gonna completely destroy his mind or body. He's going to push Barbatos Lupus to its absolute limits, and you get to see that at the very end when its green eyes suddenly turn a crimson red. It's frankly just an epic moment. It's made even better by the fact that it actually manages to deflect one of the Hashmal's techniques where it's about to hit them all with this massive beam weapon, and it just jumps down, grabs it by the face, and then just pushes it up in the air, and you see this massive beam of pure raw destruction just exploding into the sky. Man, the action in this episode was just freaking tops! So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Iron Blooded Orphans? This was a perfect episode right here, from beginning to freaking end. The most genius aspect of it is that we got to see a lot of the cool side characters in action, and they're all so cool in their very own way, especially Shino piloting the Gundam Flauros and activating its transformative cannon. That scene was just legendary in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. But what I really love about this episode is that this is going to be a story arc that's not going to be wrapped up so easily. I thought this was just going to be like a two-parter story with the rise of the mobile armors. This is essentially just more amazing build-up, and a lot of other anime series could learn a lot from this series about how they do build-up, because damn, there was just so many moments. I didn't even mention the point at the beginning when Akihiro is suddenly knocked out and Chad is still piloting his mobile suit, and he throws that weird axe hammer-like weapon like something out of Gurren Lagann. That was a fantastic freaking moment. Even Ride was amazing in this episode when he decided to just jump down on top of the Hashmal, and there were great scenes of him bouncing around these cavernous walls trying to not get killed by this massive mobile armor weapon. Really, this was an episode that had me at the edge of my seat the entire time, but I mean, really the stars of this episode have to be the Gundam Flauros and its galaxy cannon, and of course, Gundam Barbatos finally showing up at the end. That's the big risk of this story right now, which is they can get close to the Hashmal as long as they directly connect in with their mobile suit, but it's going to have some massive repercussions, like with what happened to Mikazuki, who frankly isn't worried at all. To him, as long as the Gundam Barbatos is fine, everything's gonna work out, because he's just got this like weird connection with that Gundam. He and the Gundam are one, so as long as he can actually get in that cockpit, he'll be able to move around. It's a really disturbing and creepy thought, and, you know, it really shows, too, that Mikazuki has grown a lot as a character. I mean, yes, he will take Orga's orders into consideration, but when it comes to just defending his friends at the end of the day, he is willing to just risk his entire life to do that, and damn, it's just impressive. Iron Blooded Orphans might be one of the most refreshing Gundam anime that I've seen in a very long time. Very different from a lot of the other previous Gundams, especially when compared to the Universal Century stories, and honestly, I like that. It just continues to be refreshing, and the second season is just continuing to blow me away with its quality, its storytelling, and most important, its characterization. I care about all of these characters, not just the important ones. Just as much I care about these small characters who only have a couple of lines. They do a great job of bringing a lot of life to them, and they actually do feel like real people. Also, this episode kind of made me rethink McGillis just a little bit. Yes, he's done some pretty underhanded stuff in the past, but getting to actually see him like be scared this week and be shocked by the appearance of Vidar, that was a really powerful moment that you can just imagine probably shook him down to his core when he realized, oh shit, this guy in the mask is Gaelio. He should be dead, and he is coming for my freaking head. He also happens to be on the opposing side of Gallarhorn that he's going after, so this just basically re-sparks their rivalry, which I think is great. Although, like I said, I'm shocked that they didn't really do anything with it this week, aside from just really letting us know that this guy is Gaelio. I mean, there's no way that it's not. He knows all of this personal history, and he's already bringing up events from the first season. So I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that, if he's actually going to get involved with this battle with the Hashmal, maybe even joining Mikazuki in this battle. There's a lot that could happen. Hell, I want to see more of the Gundam Flauros in action. It was just so cool in this episode, and that's really the best way to describe this week's episode. Just cool, super flashy, really awesome. Cannot wait to see the next one. I'm giving this episode right here a 5 out of 5. I loved it. Can you tell? You should definitely check it out, Gundam fans. If any of you did watch the episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Do you think that Mikazuki is going to get out of this battle unscathed? Is he going to hurt himself even more and basically end up becoming a cripple who is reliant on using the Gundam just to move around? What do you want to see from the rest of the second season of Iron Blooded Orphans? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like it if you liked it, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment or two. I will see you next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby.